When you're focusing on a distant target, your eyes can play tricks on you because the enemy might be in your blind spot. But there's one thing you can trust: your ears.
When it comes to players' combat experience, if you can't hear footsteps in the middle of a firefight, then you don't know what threats could be lurking nearby. Players can also use the sound of footsteps to determine the enemy's location and make tactical maneuvers in response. So that sound is extremely important. One thing that comes up a lot is that people can't hear footsteps in the middle of a firefight, but they also can't hear them when there's a slight noise in the background. So we work to balance the volume of gunfire with the volume of footsteps. This way, players can pinpoint the location of enemy footsteps more clearly.
But creating an immersive soundscape requires more than just footsteps. The dev team has created a comprehensive audio system, allowing players to truly feel every step of a lightcatcher's journey. To better understand this system, let's start with what we've just been talking about and something players pay a lot of attention to: footsteps. Has this ever happened to you? The enemy's on the floor above you, but you haven't noticed. The next moment, you've been wiped out. In real life, you definitely hear the sound of movement coming from the next room, even if it's blocked off by a wall.
That's why we created a sound penetration system for Farlight 84 using our spatial ray detection feature as a basis. Audio transmission can take distance and obstructions into account, allowing players to approximate the direction a sound came from the moment they hear it.
This system allows players to determine the enemy's location. But when it comes to more complex buildings, how can players figure out where the enemy is? That's where Farlight 84's spatial partition system comes into play.
We created numerous samples of footsteps, whether they're coming from downstairs, upstairs, or behind obstructions. Every footstep in the game is treated differently. If we want audio transmission to be accurate, we need to create a spatialized partition of a room. By arranging spatialized volume in the room, we essentially divide it into room 1 and room 2, or downstairs and upstairs rooms. This way, when a player runs, we can transmit the sound of their footsteps correctly according to their position.
If an enemy's on the floor above, we can make their footsteps sound solid and a little muffled, adding in a little bit of resonance from the floor itself. If they're downstairs, the sound is going to be cleaner and the reverb's going to be louder. So, by doing this, we've created substantially different audio for enemy footsteps coming from different floors.
So hearing is one thing, but what if our information could be so accurate that players could determine where nearby enemies are located by sound alone?
In the Nextara map, we divided the space into 3 categories of materials: concrete, metal, and wood. Then, when it comes to indoor spaces, we make distinctions according to the material and room size. This gives players greater ability to distinguish between, say, a gunshot fired outside and a gunshot fired in a small, medium, or large room.
In particularly complicated environments with multiple buildings like the skyline, players might hear a wooden sound in one building and realize that since the floor they're standing on isn't wooden, what they heard was coming from the building next door. Or they might hear footsteps on concrete and realize that they're coming from the same building that they're in right now.
But footsteps are just one part of the game's audio. If close-range threats can be determined using footsteps, then distant threats can be determined using gunfire. Gunfire can tell us the enemy's approximate location, distance, and even what kind of weapon they're using, allowing us to determine how well equipped the enemy is. All that information can be used to formulate an appropriate tactical response. So, can any gunshot be used to determine the enemy's position, weapons, and level of threat?
In order to allow players to truly gauge combat distance, threat level, and other information, we had to record a vast number of gunfire samples.
To do that, the team headed overseas and spent a whole week recording 25 different types of firearms, resulting in tens of thousands of raw audio files. After a stringent sorting process, we were able to create a weapons sound bank that's truly unique to Farlight 84. The moment a player enters a firefight, the bullets start to fly. That means you need to include the sounds of bullets flying past you, not just to create a greater sense of intensity, but also to help players gauge the level of threat and whether they should take cover or mount a counterattack. So it's the same question again. Should a weapon sound the same inside and outside? Of course not. In the game, and particularly on the Nextera map, huge battles can take place both indoors and outdoors. A weapon using the same gunshot sound would cause a major break in immersion.
For each weapon, we created special, personalized gunshot tail processing effects. For example, if a player fires a gun in a wide open outdoor space, the reverb is going to be larger in order to showcase the breadth of the space. If they fire in a small room, then the reverb is going to feel closer and more cramped. When you're fighting indoors, at close quarters, that can be critical to tactical decision making.
Another thing that's just as important as tactical decision-making is determining the status of your squad mates. Though a lot of players are used to getting on the mic and speaking directly, there's still the issue of delay. For example, if you see an enemy, you're going to start shooting. You don't have time to relay that information to your squad mates. That's why Farlight 84 includes a huge number of hero voice lines, over 600 per character, with each one conveying different information.
Actually, Maggie's voice is the one that stuck with me most. She doesn't just provide tactical guidance, she also talks about how things are for her outside of work.
要是考厨师证也像升级这么简单就好了。有空投降，快来！那边有敌人，发现高级补给
But in a
箱。
real match, hero voice lines are triggered extremely quickly. If every voice line was triggered immediately whenever conditions were met, they'd either cut each other off or they'd overlap, leaving players unable to catch important information.
So we created a voice line priority system based on gameplay, which considers the tactical value of each line and ranks them according to importance and time sensitivity. If you spot an enemy or come under fire, those lines are given the highest priority.
Alongside voice lines, skill sound effects are also an important part of battlefield information. Good skill sound effects can immediately convey the particulars of a skill. Is it offensive? Does it inflict status effects? Is it charging up, meaning I have time to run away?
When we get the request to create skill sound effects for a new character, we analyze that character's background and their personality. We can use different styles of sound effect to convey what's unique about that character. For example, if a character is launching a magical orb of some kind, we look at the sound design in separate phases. Phase 1 is the charge up phase. Phase 2 is the flight phase. And then there's Phase 3, impact. By dividing the sound effect into separate aspects, we can craft something that really encapsulates who the character is.
Let's take Guido's ultimate Cosmic Authority as an example. The skill has a charge up which conveys a sense of gathering energy. When it's cast, there's a feeling of imminent impact, and of this power that fills the whole space as it flies through the air. Finally, when it hits, it also slows down the enemy. So you've got a series of conditions that can all be conveyed through sound, analyzed and expressed layer by layer. The team hopes that by creating unique sounds for each character, you'll be able to tell exactly his approaching, even with your eyes closed.
Take Mayshell, for example. She's a singer who combines cute aesthetics with a punk rock attitude. To help express that, we folded musical elements into her skills. Her EQ skill plays a heavy drumming cast. Then there's her ultimate, which raises a concert stage, complete with a wild electric guitar melody and the sound of a cheering crowd.
This kind of personalized sound design doesn't just convey tactical information. It's also crucial for creating unique characters. Today, we started off with the sound of footsteps and lifted the lid on how Farlight 84's design process uses sound to provide an all-round tactical experience. And this summer, you'll be able to experience this massive sound system upgrade firsthand and immerse yourself in the action. If you're a fan of shooters, we invite you to check out Farlight 84 and let us know what you think about the latest improvements to the game. Thanks for watching.